The stars aligned, the timing this month was absolutely impeccable, with PSA returns coming back and sales being through the roof with this boom and the shopping season coming up. All of this resulted in the best selling month I had this year selling Pokemon cards on eBay. I sent out 2 of the largest PSA submissions I have ever sent last month, and they got back literally days before Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and that entire week. That shopping just exploded and this market has gone absolutely crazy. So getting 300 cards back right before all of that occurred was huge and had a massive impact on the total sales of this month, as well as some big PokeTubers talking about a particular promo that ended in that card absolutely exploding and being a big reason why my profits and profit percentage are so high this month as well. So as we do every month, let's go through the top 5 Pokemon card flips of this month. Before we hop in, I just want to remind you that the market can move quickly and aggressively. Just because these flips worked for me in November 2024 does not mean that they will work at whatever time you're watching this. Make sure to do your own research before making any purchases. In the month of November, I sold the most amount of cards that I have sold in a single month this year of 183 total Pokemon cards sold. That was a gross sales amount of $12,311.68. And after eBay takes out all their fees, my profit this month was $4,838.76. That's an average return on investment percentage of all the cards sold this month of 88.9%. That's crazy. The number 5 flip of November is this PSA 10 Scyther from the Japanese 2008 Pokemon card set Galactic's Conquest. This card has a low PSA 10 population of only 53 in the pop report. I really like this card because it's kind of a reimagined secret rare form of the Jungle Scyther that came out years prior to this. And there's actually a Hitmonchan in the set, which is the base set Hitmonchan, but also with the gold border. The cool thing about this is it has the front sheen hollow pattern of all the stars, but you can also get swirls in the normal hollow pattern of the card. Unfortunately, this one hasn't been reimagined as much as the Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard from Stormfront, but I really like that they brought this back and made it a secret rare in this set. Very cool. I found a super minty copy of this card for only $11.43. That's pretty crazy. And after the $14 grading fee, because I graded it on a bulk special, my total all-in cost was $25.43. I was then able to sell this card on eBay for $125, and after eBay took all their fees, my total profit on this card was $80.53. That leaves us with an ROI percentage of 316.7%. As you guys know, there's 2 other metrics that we cover in these videos. The first one is how long it actually took me to sell the card after getting it back from PSA, and the second one is comparing the recent sales of my Buy It Now listing to some of the auctions that have sold to see if it would have been better selling this card at auction or if it was good that I sold it as a Buy It Now listing. I got this card back from PSA on October 29th and it sold in the month of November. A lot of these mid-era niche hollows are selling now all of a sudden with the kind of the shopping season ramping up, but also this kind of boom period we're in. A lot of my stuff is moving now that has just been sitting for so long. This is kind of crazy. I feel like this is the first time that this has happened on all of the episodes of Top 5 Flips. An auction in August on Fanatics Collects was the last of this card to sell in PSA 10 as far as I can tell, and the auction went for $168 with buyer's premium. So it sold for $43 more than my card did Buy It Now. Doesn't happen very often, but very cool to finally see an auction outperform a recent Buy It Now listing. The number 4 flip of November is this PSA 10 Snorlax from the 2010 Japanese Pokemon card set Lost Link. This card has a PSA 10 population of 163. Lost Link is a bit of a weird set. All of the hollows in the set, and probably some of the non-hollows, have this weird kind of dark energy ball that a lot of the Pokemon are casting or throwing or attacking with, and I'm not exactly sure what that is. It was probably something to do with the gameplay in the game potentially. And to be honest, this particular Snorlax is not really one of my favorites. You guys know at this point, I'm not huge on CGI looking artworks. This is definitely a CGI looking artwork. One of the great things about this particular version of this card is I believe it had at least 1 swirl on it, so that makes it better in my book. And Snorlax is a super popular Pokemon. This is a card though that has sat for a long time, and I've adjusted this this price so much since I got it back from PSA for it to finally sell on eBay, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I bought this card for $18.20 raw, a minty version that got a PSA 10. After the $15 grading fee, the total cost for this card was $33.20. I was then able to sell this card for $139.49 on eBay, and after eBay took all of their pesky fees, my total profit on the card was $86.67. That leaves us with an ROI percentage of 261.1%. Now, like I mentioned, I've had this card a long time. I got this card back from PSA March 22nd of 2023, last year. I've almost had this card for 2 years before it finally sold on my eBay. The most recent auction sale I could find for this card sold on Fanatics, and it sold for $110 with the buyer's premium. So we did much better, gaining almost $30 more for our card, but again, it took almost 2 years for us to sell this freaking thing. It may have been a better option at the time in which I got this back to auction it for as much money as it would have gone for at the time, instead of waiting 2 years to get potentially 30 or so more dollars. I don't know if I've had many cards that have sat 2 years before selling, but this was one of them. The number 3 flip is this PSA 10 Flareon holo from the 2005 Japanese Pokemon card set Golden Sky Silvery Ocean. I've sold this card many times before, but I'm not sure if it has shown up in these videos just yet. This card has a PSA 10 population of 133. Very similar pop actually to the Snorlax we just sold. This is one of my absolute favorite Flareons. One of the crazy things is I feel like out of all the evolutions, Flareon has some of, if not the best artworks from all the way back to Jungle all the way until now. Flareon just shines in just about every artwork. The Delta Species artwork is badass. This artwork is absolutely gorgeous, and there's so many others that are just so good. So this is one of my favorite Flareon artworks though, and it's absolutely beautiful. But you know what? I had to sell it because it didn't have a swirl, of course. No swirl, doesn't stay in my PC. I found a minty copy of this card for $39.20. And after the $15 grading fee on this one, my total all-in cost was $54.20. I was able to then sell this card for $169.99 on eBay. And after eBay took all their fees, my total profit on the card, $87.32. That leaves me with an ROI percentage of 161.1% on this beautiful Flareon holo. The last auction of this card to sell on eBay sold for $123.39. So, selling this card buy it now, we sold it for just over $40 more on a buy it now sale than the most recent auction. But was it worth the wait? I got this card back from PSA on January 29th of this year. So it took me 11 months after receiving this card back from PSA to sell it for $40 more than the most recent auction. Would it have auctioned for that amount at the time I got it back? Would it have auctioned for more? We can't really know, but since I sell most things by it now, I'm pretty happy with the $170 sale on this card in PSA 10. The number 2 top flip of this month is this PSA 10 Arcanine holo from the 2003 EX Japanese set Magma vs. Aqua. Very similar to the last few cards, this card has a pretty low population of only 106 in PSA 10. This personally is one of my favorite artworks of Arcanine. I really like this one because it almost has like a cave painting vibe to it. The art style is very almost primitive feeling, especially on the background, but it also has kind of a vibe of when you're walking through different temples and places in Japan, they'll have these different tapestries that were created hundreds of years ago. And this almost reminds me of the art style that you'll see on a lot of those tapestries. We were able to find a minty copy of this card for only $21.32, which is actually kind of crazy. This card goes for a bit more than that in mint condition. So $21 is a steal. Great pickup. After the $14 grading fee sent this in on a special, the total cost was $35.32. I was then able to sell this card for $164.99. After eBay took all their fees, my total profit was over $100, $103.14. That leaves me with an ROI percentage on this Arcanine of 292%. I got this card back from PSA in the same submission as I got the Scyther on October 29th. So it took less than a month for this card to sell for $165. So absolutely amazing turnaround on this Arcanine. And again, just 10 days after the most recent auction sold, we blew it out of the water by almost $60 The most recent auction sold for $108.50, and our buy it now sale was $165. So nearly $60 more in only a 10-day difference selling this card buy it now instead of auction. So couldn't have asked for a better outcome, a better turnaround, and a better profit on this particular card. As a lot of you may have guessed, the number one flip of this month is the 2024 5th anniversary traditional Chinese Pikachu promo that literally just came out in PSA 10. The population at the time of creating this video, I'm sure it will explode at some point, but right now there is only 53 in the population. But again, the card just came out. I went 14 of 14 on PSA 10s, so I assume that this population is going to balloon in the coming weeks and months. This card has actually been insane. I'm gonna make a full video on it, so make sure to stay tuned on my full breakdown of how the events of this card have played out and how it has ballooned and exploded in price and why I think it has. But I will say that I actually sold 2 of these in PSA 10 during the month of November, and they both had a similar outcome. And I sold 3 or 4 raw copies of this card after the card tripled in price. The average profits I was making on the raw cards that I sold were over $140 profit on the raw cards, the ones that I didn't send for grading, the ones that had print lines on the back. I still made $144 on each of those cards raw. On top of that, I sold 2 of these in the month of December in PSA 10 for absurd prices, what I think are absurd prices. So let's break it down. I purchased these cards for $90 a piece, and I bought 20 of them, 14 of which I sent to PSA, and they all got PSA 10. Just keep that in mind. I sent these cards to PSA on the $40 tier because I wanted to get them back quickly. So my total all-in cost is $130 per each of these 14 cards. I was able to sell the first PSA 10 copy for $999.99, basically $1,000 for a brand new PSA 10 Pikachu promo in traditional Chinese. It's not even Japanese or English or simplified Chinese. It's the redheaded stepchild of the Chinese Pokemon card world, traditional Chinese, and it's still sold for $1,000 in a PSA 10, brand new. After eBay took their fees, my profit on the card was $711.55. You can't make this up. That's as good as it gets. The timing on this was insane. I'm not even going to take any credit for it. I just bought the card because I thought it looked like a cool Pikachu promo, and it had Pikachu and Charizard and Mew all in the same card. I didn't know that it was going to explode in price. I'm just reaping the benefits of it now, I guess. That means for this card, we had an ROI percentage of 547.3%. Crazy. Just crazy. I got these cards back on November 26th and have sold 4 PSA 10 copies up till this point. It's the first card that I ever listed before I actually had it back in hand, and I sold 2 copies before I got that submission back. It's the first time I've ever done that. It was a little scary because I did miss a delivery day. So I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna get these back in time for the window, for the shipping window, all that stuff. But they got back in time. I was able to send them out. And so far, I feel like I have happy customers. The last auction to sell, there's a lot of auctions up right now, but the last auction to sell was on November 30th. There were a pair of 2 of these in PSA 10s for $2,100. So nearly $1,000 a piece. I sold mine for $1,000. I have sold cards since then for $900. So the price, I believe, is coming down to some extent. It will be interesting to see this first batch of auctions sell, to see where a lot of these auctions land. I have 2 auctions up myself right now. The price on this card is absolutely just astronomical and wild though. Well guys, there you have it. Those are my top 5 flips for the month of November. Absolutely insane month. I sold so many cards. The timing was, it truly was a right place, right time scenario. I got all these cards in at the right time. The market boomed at the right time. Big PokeTubers talking about cards at the right time. A lot of this just fell into place in a way that it's hard to even take any credit for any of it. All I can really do is benefit from it. Right place, right time, amazing month. I hope you guys had fantastic months selling Pokemon cards as well. And we'll see you next month with another top 5 flips video. If you haven't checked out the top 5 flips video from last month, check that out right here. See you later, guys.